Hello everyone, welcome to the Pondering Skulls podcast. My name is Bree.
And my name is Mo.
And I can already tell this is going to be a hard episode for me to do again.
Yeah. All you hear from her, this is the Pondering Skulls podcast.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this one is going to be, what did I say, 7 through 9? Yeah, 7 through 9 of...
You just said nothing, but...
Well, I was talking about it earlier, but it's 7 through 9 of I'm an evil doll, but I am not the problem. And I hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
The link to the story is going to be in the description of both the podcast and the episode on YouTube. Also, the author's name will be down there too, so be on the lookout for it and enjoy the story.
We also got special permission. It was really fun actually getting the permission too. Love you guys so much and enjoy.
So how do we know when this guy is causing the distraction? I text. JP laughs. It's genuine, but dark all the same. The one thing I can promise you is that when this lunatic does his thing, you'll know, is his answer. Everything is still happening so fast. The karmic quicksand that is our situation is dragging us down faster with every passing second. Kaz is still looking rough. He's a living example of how being able to withstand violence isn't necessarily a good thing. What is this guy, besides the obvious? I text. He's on a lot of radars, but to the best of anyone's knowledge, he's just some asshole. You'd think the headline would be that he has a scrap of the Ripper in his skull, but it isn't. No one can find anything on him before 4 years ago, and even then it's spotty. This might not sound like a big deal, but I've never seen someone that the collective efforts of the nosiest pricks on either side of the void can't figure out. Regardless, this guy can do two things that you need: spill blood and cause shit, JP assures me. Do we need to worry about him? I question. Yes, of course. What part of anything I said was unclear? Unstable, unknown, unfriendly? Christ, how much brain did you get left with? I'm texting you a location. If you get out, I'll be there. Then we'll see what we can do for Leo, JP says, dropping the call. I hide the phone but realize it's been a while since I've seen one of the guards or twisted medical personnel walk by. The sounds of other entities caged and tortured ring through the grim hallway. Kaz, how are things coming along? I ask, fear and panic rising. It's going to be a while still, Kaz says, punctuating the sentence with a pained scream of his own. I'm going to spoil things just a bit. What happens next feels like the end of the world. And contrary to belief, the end of the world doesn't start with a whimper, or a bang, but a song. 2 guards walk into the hallway, human, or close enough. Doesn't make them any less intimidating, though. Heavily armed and in tactical gear that'd be at home in a war zone, they patrol the cells. Subject 248 has escaped. Repeat, Subject 248 has escaped. Non-lethal force only has been authorized. We must retrieve the asset. A voice barks through a military-grade walkie-talkie system. The taller of the two, a man with a caustic-looking facial scar, presses a button on a mounted speaker. Roger, he says, looking to his companion and nodding. They both draw stout, arcing batons from hip holsters. The sound of broken glass, a doorway at the end of the hall is plunged into darkness. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again. A thin, sinister voice half sings. The guards exchange glances, standing firm, almost amused. Another light bulb bursts, barely audible footsteps. Because the vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. The voice gains volume, taking on an eager, almost wavering tone. There's only one way down the hallway. This dickhead is just trying to shake us up. The shorter guard, a man with red hair and ghost-white skin, says. 2 more light bulbs give way. There's 15 feet or so of visibility. The rest of the hallway is pitch blackness. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains. The voice is no longer singing. The ancient song's lyrics sound like a threat. The shorter guard stumbles to the side, hitting the bars of our cell. His companion is confused, and to be honest, so am I. But as the man starts to fall to his knees, I see it. A piece of jagged steel protrudes from the side of his skull. Blood falls in sheets as the man starts to gibber nonsense, clawing at the metal futilely. Within the sound of silence, the voice croons. The taller guard attempts to grab his speaker to radio for backup. There's a moment where you can tell this man who willingly chose this evil job realizes how much of a mistake it was. A look of shock as though a rough, brutal length of metal, nothing more than a sharpened piece of debris, spins end over end, first severing his hand, then the cord of the walkie-talkie, and finally buries itself in his shoulder. The part of my brain that loves watching pain and brutality is being absolutely outshined by fear. Now this may seem dramatic, even confusing, but you need to understand something. The difference between terror and horror. Terror is the fear of the unknown. Horror is the revulsion once it's revealed. Horror I've been modified to love. Terror, sadly, I can very much feel. From the darkness walks a figure as confusing as the fact my creator didn't snip out the fear centers of my brain. It's the man from before, of course. He's wearing torn, blood-stained pants, shirtless, and carrying a military-style duffel bag. His hands and forearms are covered in so much blood and gore, it looks like he's wearing gloves. The man's left hand holds something, but I can't tell what it is. The shirtless psycho's body is a detailed map of wounds that tell a story of torture, escape, and revenge. The man's body language is halfway between apex predator and drunken schizophrenic. His stroll to the two mortally wounded men is casual but eager, as if savoring every moment. In restless dreams I've walked alone, now narrow streets of cobblestone. The pale figure comments in a wondering tone. In an instant he slams the object in his hand into the taller guard's head. The quarter brick cracks the guard's skull, and he falls backwards, legs flailing like a dying spider as he tries to keep his footing. The lunatic drops to all fours, searching for something on the ground. I get a good look at him and see that he's flinched into the tattooed jester makeup from his face, accurately enough to keep the sharp, angled patterns. His lips are ripped and torn from the oversized ball gag, completing the clown from hell look. Neath the halo of the street lamp, I turn to my collar to the cold and damp. The mysterious killer mumbles to himself. Then his face brightens as he finds what he's looking for, a wicked grin causing blood to ooze from his torn lips. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light, he screams. Neither guard is in a state to defend themselves. The clown blinds them with a shard of shattered light bulb. He finishes his grim task, slowly turning toward Kaz and myself. His smile is full of shattered, almost fang-like teeth. His voice, though hoarse, seems normal. "You two the puppet and the candy man?" he asks. "Yes," Kaz nods, trying and failing to rise. I nod. "I'm Mike," the tall stranger says, taking a keycard from one of the dying guards and opening the cell door. He throws the duffel on the cement floor and unzips it. "So, you look like 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, Slenderman. How long is it going to take before you can walk?" Mike asks. "I don't know, maybe 5 minutes if I'm lucky, but I'll be in no state to fight." "Who are you?" Kaz replies. Mike laughs. "No fucking clue, my guy," he says, wrapping his bare skull with one hand. "There's a lot of loose nuts and bolts up here, and separating from all those the paranormal horse shit that's a task I gave up on a while ago. What I do is kill people. Believe it or not, it gets kinda boring. I've always wanted to kill monsters." Mike lets a comment hang, bringing out a long purple jacket from the bag. "Jesus Christ, no," he says, tossing the garment aside. Kaz's eyes go wide. "That fabric is indestructible," he comments, wincing in pain as ribs begin to fuse. You wear it then. I'm not walking around here looking like a goddamn joker. Actually, let's trade, Mike says, taking Kaz's jacket and shirt. They hang absurdly off the man. The supposedly indestructible garment sits on the ground, clearly too small for Kaz. So here's my dilemma. Your friend says the shit in this bag has enough chutzpah to let me punch my M card, and all you have to do is keep it. It's caused enough of a distraction to let you two get out of here. Now 5 minutes fighting whatever the hell Pie's A-team is, that's going to be risky as hell, Mike says, pulling a walking stick topped with what I can feel is a lead-plated infant skull from the dead duffel. It radiates an energy that makes me walk backward. But sending you two on your way, that'd be a notch in my belt, and let me get out of here before the shit really hits the fan. He stalks toward Kaz. My friend tries to move backward, but succeeds in nothing more than making himself scream. Mike taps Kaz's shoulder with the head of the walking stick. The flesh peels back like wax under a welder's torch. So, tall, warped, and handsome, I'm going to ask you a question, and keep in mind I know the answer. When you were talking to Pie, you said you were buddies with the goddamn cancer I've got stuck in my brain. Were you? Mike asks. Every sense I have tells me this person in front of me is just that, a person. But the look he gives Kaz is as terrifying as anything I've seen yet. We could be found in the same circles for a time, Kaz replies, ashamed. God damn it, Mike sighs, moving the walking stick. Guess you're walking out of here then, but someday I'm going to want to know everything you know about Demi. Understood? Whatever you ask, just... As Kaz talks, I see the strangest thing. For a moment, Mike's features and body language change. The voice that comes from him isn't that of an abused lunatic, but smooth, almost cultured. Kaz, you have to help me, the second voice says, panicked. Mike's face contorts. There's clearly some kind of internal struggle happening. Our demented savior grabs the cell bars and begins to slam his face into them. He stumbles backwards, shaking his head. Nice try, Jack, but you weren't the first voice in my head and you won't be the last. Now you, little fella, you going to be any use? Mike asks, regaining what passes for his wits. I swap out a hand for one of my blades. The killer snickers. Oh, that's just a goddamn adorable, like a little recalled Muppet or something. As Mike talks, he begins talking like an assortment of various items from the duffel bag. Some, like a pistol and an onyx-handled knife, have obvious uses. Others, though, resonate with a powerful ethereal energy. I have no idea what they do, and I'm guessing neither does Mike. Noise from the door on the lit end of the hallway resonate rhythmic banging. I can hear hinges start to bend and screech. It's being breached. Must have had those goons on a heart monitor or something. Thought I'd had a bit more time. What's the edda, tall man? Mike asks, wrapping a white silk scarf around one hand. Kaz rises to one knee shakily. Another minute or two, Kaz says shamefully. Sounds like 4 of them, nothing close to human. I can keep them busy for 3 minutes. Maybe even put one of them down if your friend wasn't full of shit. But you need to be making your way to the warehouse by then. Once things start going south, I'm out, Mike explains. I have no way to text a reply, so I nod. My thanks, Kaz says. Just remember your end of the deal when the time comes, for your sake, Mike states. The door tears off its hinges, heavy, trudging footsteps from the far end of the hall. The other trapped entities begin a torrent of screamed abuse and threats. Like someone flipped a switch, Mike's body language changes and he walks into the hallway, one hand running the skull-topped cane along the cell bars. I make my way to the open cell door, keeping an eye on the situation while Kaz begins to attempt standing. 4 entities at the back stand 2 hulking things that look like someone stopped making a werewolf halfway through. Mottled, rash-colored skin, small patches of long, wiry hair sprouting at random, and faces twisted in a myopic toddler's drawing of a canine visage. Leading them is short, thin, feminine-looking creature. It's human-shaped, with deep purple skin and white eyes. Her fingers split toward the ends, like long, thin, almost tentacle-like growths moving like undersea life. Behind her is something ethereal, a gray, smog-like thing that looms above. Mike starts to talk, but the leader holds up one strange finger almost seductively. Her eyes start to form black, spinning spirals. She grins, revealing small, pointed teeth. Mike stops dead in his tracks, head lolling to one side slightly. "Brains over bronze, boys," the Lovecraftian hypnotist says to her compatriots. I'm shocked at the clear northern English accent that comes from the dog-like creature closest to the door. "Don't underestimate him, Kim. You saw the mess he left." "Fair enough," Kim says, her grin widening, making her look even more like some kind of undersea abomination. "Clown, I'm hungry." Without hesitation, Mike takes the stiletto-bladed knife and cuts a thick piece of flesh from his arm and begins to walk forward. "Satisfied, Peter? Clown, bandage yourself before you bleed out and get us all killed," Kim demands smugly. Mike wraps his forearm in the white fabric from the duffel. Blood quickly soaks it, but the makeshift bandage does its best. "Kneel," Kim commands, holding out her hand. Mike complies, offering up his flesh, his face blank. The creature greedily consumes the gift. My heart sinks. Kaz manages to stumble and drag himself a few feet to see our last chance of hope, enraptured by whatever the hell Kim is. Peter laughs. "George, we're getting that promotion, man." The other dog-like thing smiles and agrees. As Kim licks the last of Mike's blood from her alien fingers, Mike speaks. "I'll take that back now," he says. The man moves fast enough that I don't see the blade tear the aquatic-looking entity open from waist to chin, just the spray of greenish-purple fluid and odd-looking innards that hit the ground. Mike's on his feet, bandaged arm elbow deep in Kim's torso. Some kind of reaction is happening. Smoke begins to pour from her hollowed chest as Mike tosses her eviscerated body aside. Kim begins to break down, flesh turning into a curdled-looking soupy mess. In seconds, nothing remains but a sludgy pile and the last scraps of fabric from Mike's arm burning to ash. "Anyone who wants to get into my head is going to need to get in fucking line," Mike says to the shocked entities. There's a moment of stillness, of silence, before the hallway turns into a war zone. His surprise plays out. It's obvious Mike is playing for time. He's landing painful, unexpected blows, but can't press his attack. He pulls trick after trick from JP's duffel. A strike from the cane shatters the jaw of one of the dog things. A splash of liquid from a silver flask causes the ethereal creature to back itself into a corner, but they press on. Kaz starts to take small, unsteady steps. His torso is still mangled. His skin is loose and unhealthy looking, but the look on his face is determined. Mike is losing ground, saved only by the fact that these killers have been muzzled by their leader. "We need to leave," Kaz says, coughing, as he starts to get out of the cell. His first few steps are slow, but I think we can finally get the hell out of this place. Everything happening is so beyond us and our abilities, I feel small, afraid. I need to be out of this place. I couldn't feel anything less like the weapon I was created to be. Kaz trips as he hits the ground. Something in the cell across from us reaches a long-fingered, black-clawed hand through the bars, grabbing Kaz by the neck. I panic, stabbing at the wrist of the thing. Kaz struggles, but fractured arms provide no grip against whatever fresh horror lies within the cell. Mike is violently slammed into the floor, then ceiling by the ghost-like entity. The impact leaves him bleeding and stumbling like a drunk. "Fuck this," Jorge says, one eye torn out at some point during the scrum. He dashes towards Mike, low and feral, and grabs the stunned man by the crotch with one hand and shoulder with the other. I saw through enough tendons that the thing in the cell releases Kaz. Coughing and sputtering, he begins to limp as fast as he can toward the warehouse. I can't take my eyes off of the fight. For a moment, I look at it through the implanted eye, thinking maybe I can see something to help. I don't. In fact, what I don't see is what raises questions. In between all of the indescribable patterns of the supernatural, Mike is nothing. Not the dim streak normal folks are, but a void of nothing that stands out like a sore thumb. Peter and the ghost-like thing try and stop him, but Jorge begins to try and tear Mike in half. Rage overtaken even his fear of his demonic master. There's a blinding flash of light in the dim hallway as Jorge ignites. A glass bottle shatters against the ground as the canine creature drops the clown. It's a brief victory. The thing is hurt and stunned, but already rolling on the ground, smothering the flames. "Punch!" Kaz screams from the warehouse door. "We need to move!" Mike's life can be measured in seconds. What's left of my conscience screams at me to help him. But as I look through the door, I realize salvation isn't as close as I thought. That Kaz and I have our own problems ahead. Before, the warehouse was terrifying in a mundane way. Brutal in a kind of Ed Gein way. But the abattoir in front of us isn't just a psychopath's playground anymore. Clearly, Pi has lost his patience. The warehouse is an evil-infused hellscape. Biological-looking walls, animated hooks and chains, victims scrambling with garish wounds. It's like someone dredged up a corner of hell, and this is what we have to get through. Like always, I need your help. Kaz can't fight, I can't reach JP, and Mike has his own things to deal with for as long as he can survive anyway. Please, hurry, and everyone give their ideas. Because of all things I expected, literally going through hell wasn't one of them. I hear Mike screaming in pain behind us, but I can't tear my eyes from the sight in front of me. Fear and horror, they tend to have a diminishing effect. There are only so many times you can toss spooky things at people, or evil dolls, and expect them to react. But my situation, it's the different types of fear that keep me on the brink of losing it. I'm going to assume the majority of you out there don't have the same kind of life I do, so I'll make an analogy to try and explain things a bit better. Picture this, you're out at your favorite bar having a good time, and at the end of the night, you go to leave. Waiting for you is a nasty guy who outweighs you by 30 pounds. He's drunk and intent on doing you harm. It's scary, no doubt, but it's a scary that you can understand. And, depending on who you are, maybe even deal with it. Now, same scenario, only this time when you leave, it isn't a biker who mistook you for the guy who scratched his ride, but a rabid tiger. Still fear-inducing, but in a much less familiar way, with few options as to how to handle it. Final scenario, when that door opens, it's a hurricane. Whether it's more dangerous than the tiger is a moot point, as there are infinitely fewer options as to how to come out of things whole. Waking up as some kind of Etsy Frankenstein's monster was my biker, the bishop was my tiger, and this place, it's a shitstorm so bad it's turned into a full-on hurricane. The scene in front of me, guards, human and entity, struggle to wrangle more wounded torture victims than I can quickly count. I don't know if it's a tactical or just the result of unfiltered rage, but the warehouse itself is becoming more corrupted by the second. It wasn't exactly Disneyland before, but scummy, vile energy is permeating and turning everything within. It's bigger than it was, bigger than is possible. Surfaces coated in black organic veins, tools and torture implements rattling and crawling, given some kind of blunt, evil sentience. Kaz and I take our first few steps in, the floor slick with blood and some kind of spreading gray mold. I find myself wondering, why in the hell haven't I just been going invisible, as it hits me? Not some epiphany or future mystery in my situation, something literally hits me. I'm dazed, vision blurry as I lay on the ground. I feel a weight on me, and as my sight clears, I see a sight. Pathetic and dangerous at the same time. Whoever it is has been here a long time. His long, dark beard is broken by scars and wounds. His scarred, pitted flesh has months of grime and filth, infected wounds, and black rot. He has a thick metal rod and slams it over and over again into my head. I scream as a blow causes something to give way, my new eye suddenly feeling cold and dead. The pain worse than the surgery itself. Kaz tries to intervene, but a backhanded blow of the improvised truncheon shatters an already damaged arm. I want to explain something you guys might not know. What I give you here is pretty filtered. It's how I can communicate and think when I have time to sort through the confusing mess of crossed wires that is my brain. I respect you guys too much to make you sit through a lot of the darker urges and thoughts that are the majority of what's going through my mind. You guys are here for the paranormal, the unknown, the supernatural. Subjecting you to another sick bastard's twisted manifesto isn't something I want to do. But every second is a struggle, is what I'm saying. The dwindling bits of me that are still human, still rational, want to fight this forced urge to destroy. But every day one voice gets a little dimmer and one gets a little stronger. I know the man on top of me is a victim. All he saw was another random horror between him and freedom. But with every blow landed, it gets harder to keep my "not today, Satan" attitude. I must have some kind of good karma built up before I can watch myself eviscerate this poor bastard. He's tackled by someone in what's left of a security uniform. Kaz grabs me as I back up, lifting me to my feet with a grunt of pain. "Where's the damn exit?" he laments. I see what he means. The four walls of the place are out of sight, each extending in an eyeball-straining fashion beyond a false horizon. We go relatively unnoticed in the chaos, both sides fighting for survival, but among that horrific scrum, there are a few entities with their wits about them. Pie's best, working quickly to restore the twisted order of this place. Soon enough, the warehouse will be under control, and we need to get the hell out of here before then. Kaz trips. It's my turn to lend a helping hand. "Probably less people the closer to the exit we get," I volunteer. "As good a plan as any. This is a display of power I've never witnessed. It's been impressive under other circumstances," Kaz replies. We walk for what feels like miles, though, through endless rows of industrial shelving and grim implements. The further we go, the less sense the arrangement of objects makes. Soon enough, we are having to climb over eclectic, random combinations of tools, shelves, and other assorted warehouse paraphernalia. The sounds of carnage are far in the background, but the small noises breaking the silence of our death march shake me just as bad. What could be the whispers of the damned or hushed plans for our capture echo loud enough to notice but not to understand? Haze, both literal and ethereal, thickens around us. I can feel others in the distance, but whether they are Pie's victims or thralls, I have no idea. "Kaz, you're still leaking pretty bad," I say. "Won't be getting much better until I can get back to my shop, or barring that, a dark basement with an unlucky individual," Kaz answers with a cough. With every step, I feel our chances getting slimmer. Something large and smart enough to stay out of sight has been following us. Whether it's on our tail or just cleaning up stragglers, I have no idea. After what feels like hours of walking, Kaz needs a break. I want to push him onward, but when I see the winding blood trail and the handful of open fractures on his body, I relent. "No judgments if you need to, order some long pig," I say. Kaz laughs, coughs, then replies, "Things aren't that simple for me, actually. I've been meaning to mention. They aren't that simple for you either. Myself, I need time, privacy, and safety to feed. The majority of my digestion is external. And you aren't fueled by blood either. You feed on the other thing that the human body loses when violence is applied to it." "What? I don't know, it was some kind of feedback system. Are you saying I eat souls?" I stammer. More take a bite out of it, and the concept of a soul is a little rudimentary, but you're in the ballpark, Kaz informs me. And you feel the need to tell me this why? I ask accusingly. Because, Punch, if this place is much larger, I'm not making it out, Kaz says matter-of-factly. Don't be dramatic, it's just flesh and bone, you'll shrug it off, I reassure. I'm not pie. I'm not something from another part of reality. I'm dying, I can barely keep moving, let alone help you. This place is warping space and time. It could be days before we find the exit. When the time comes, I want you to keep going, Kaz admits. We sit in silence for a while, Kaz leaning against twisted metal shelving. This place makes me feel like a rat in a maze, small and completely at the whim of whoever created it. At first I think the red dot on Kaz is just another of his dozen of minor wounds reopening, but then I hear him. Don't move. I know I wouldn't die for my boss, so I'm going to assume you don't want to either. Name's Steve, says a square-jawed, dark-haired man holding a massive rifle of some form, clearly pilfered from one of the guards. The fear, panic, and hell-spawned fog has dimmed my senses. I should have been able to feel this guy, and the 4 others behind him coming. Now that I see them, that dark magic keeping me going gives me insight. The 2 women are sisters, 30s, one a police officer and one a lawyer. The cop is the de facto leader of the group, but Steve wants to play hero more. The nervous-looking men standing at the back of the group were abducted from a Narcanon meeting a few months back. They're cowards, but have stepped up to the plate for their freedom. The specifics get a little blurry, but I can see the bond, the kinship, and the trials this group has been through. I saw innocence once. Here I see so much more than that. Loyalty, sacrifice, and resilience. This is one of those moments where I am going to spare you 80% of my thoughts. They were bad. Easy, sir, Kaz states, shakily getting to his feet. I've been shackled by the same fiend you have, wounded by the same hand. I don't have time to explain the finer points of things, but we all stand a better chance of getting out by working together. As strange as my companion and I are, we mean you no harm. I'm almost surprised by his eloquence. Deb, take this, Steve says, passing off the rifle to the stone-faced officer. So I'm to believe you 2 are the only creepy crawlies around here that aren't out for blood? The man walks forward. He's afraid, but doing a perfect job hiding it. You'll have to. We need to act as soon as possible. The longer Pie's corruption takes hold, the thinner space and time become. Judging by the look of your group, he's managed to drag hours into days in some places. Weeks, actually, Steve says, walking closer. I thought the shit I had to see in the warehouse was bad. That was the demon and his cronies just doing business. These things pissed off and untethered, you have no idea what I've seen your kind do. The brave people that died. The man is inches from Kaz now, staring up at the wounded entity, fearless. He pays me no mind, so I stay close. The road is brutal and hard, I understand that, but don't let it blind you. Kaz's tone is exasperated, impatient. Oh, I can see just fine, and the road is about to get a little less difficult, Steve says. I want to tell Steve to stop, to help Kaz make his case, but the man is a quick draw and made up his mind long before he started talking. The stolen pistol is large and covered in symbols that have nothing to do with either Smith or Wesson. Every moment of this hellhole I have been fighting to keep myself from giving in to the dark urges that have been buried inside of me. And every time I've been able to understand how going off on a murder spree would do nothing more than get me killed. That pistol would put Kaz on the floor on a good day. Right now, it's going to finish what Pie's goons started. And that little bit of logic, that tiny excuse, that spark of justification starts a fire. I can't say I'm going to relate this next part unfiltered, but I'm going to be a bit more honest than I usually am. I want all of the people rooting for me for the wrong reasons to understand. I'm nothing to put on a t-shirt. The parts of me that love doing the worst things out there are just as much a part of me as the parts that want to try and stop the bishop. I'm not a good guy doing bad things, I'm just me. Steve may be a quick draw, but I'm faster. His Achilles tendons retract into his calves as my blades sever them cleanly. In the movies and the stories, the hero can keep fighting till they're mincemeat, and even then they wince more at the stitching than they do at the wound. But in real life, things are much more fun. The gun drops first, then a look of confusion as he begins to fall, hands grabbing at the legs that no longer obey his commands. I'm under him now. The wall I was vainly trying to put up between who I am and what I am is gone. The scream starts as gravity takes hold. It's deep, loud, and pathetic. The sound of a person experiencing more pain than they know is possible, and understanding there's only more to come. But it's cut short. Not by a death blow, mind you. Efficiency is the last thing on my mind. With a motion like a captive bolt gun, I piston my hands up as Steve falls, shearing through the bottom of his spine. His legs stop hurting. They stop feeling anything, in fact. I end Steve quickly, but in a fashion that would make the creators of the Iron Maiden take notes. I stand in shattered ribs, staring at the face split in two. Then I feel it, an energy wash over me. No, that's wrong. Being drawn into me. What I had before, the home invaders, that was like basement meth. What I take from Steve is China White. 4-on-1 should be a death sentence. My element of surprise is gone. But I understand things now. I feel things I couldn't before. The first is, I don't need to fight people. That's stupid. They're bigger, faster, and for the moment, stronger. I just need to fight parts of people. Everyone thinks they're Ash Williams, able to shrug off lost limbs if they really need to. Everyone is fucking wrong. Over any kind of distance, I'm slow as hell. But the strange way I'm weighted and the effects of whatever soul-cannibalizing magics keeps me going makes me as agile as hell. The group fights on, but frailty of mind and body takes its toll. Blood pours and I'm enraptured. It's the opposite of instinct. Every footstep is deliberate. Every twist of the blade done to cause pain, fear, and hopelessness. Of course I take damage, but it's all part of the dance. Those moments of hope as an improvised mace dents my skull, or a well-placed kick sends me skittering, they make the slow realization all the better. I lose myself to the sport of brutality, and for the moment, I see. More than that, for a fleeting spot of time, I'm back. Faces are blurred, details seem to shift and flow, but I'm me. Flesh and blood, me. It's some kind of family function, massive. There's no sinister overtones, moral compromises, or bloody battles. Just a large group of folks, the older generations have been born in Finland or Mexico. Peace. For a moment, anyway. I stand in wrecked shelving and entrails. Fronds of the metal shell of my head are bent, not quite closing true. The addicts and the lawyer remain. I want to see my family again. I don't want this power and agency to go away. Greed, pure and selfish greed. I see in ways no human can, in ways nobody wants to. I understand the utility of every shadow, every metal spur, every power tool around me. I shed blood and take souls, dying for one more second of who I was. One more breath of air from my own fucking lungs. One addict clutches at his face covered in epoxy. Internal ruptures and deep wounds try to kill him before suffocation does. The other tries to save their friend. I dispatch them in a way that would get this account locked for explaining. But that act, that nearly blasphemous violation of the human body, it takes me there. A lake, a sunset, a small, pale-skinned old woman. I can't think of her name, or my own name for that matter, but I think it's my grandmother. She's telling me something important, but I can't make out the words. A spurt of blood and a scream of pain takes me from my reward. But it's not the lawyer's blood, nor her scream. I'm not staring at her torn corpse. I'm looking down at 4 inches of a 9-inch knife sticking out of my chest. The fact I've posted this should let you know I didn't die. I understand something as I feel my insides begin to wrap around the blade. It becomes crystal clear as that dark force within me makes the embedded weapon part of me. My creator knew exactly what she was doing. It's a shocked death, and one that all you gore hounds out there would love. But I think this is about as unfiltered as I can be right now. Before the blood is cooled, I can feel the energy fleeing my body. The more I take, the quicker it leaves, and the ethereal whirlpool Pi is causing isn't helping. Like every evil substance, the worst part of what powers me is the come down. I see what I've done. Clarity comes in soul-crushing wave. I feel my mind start to flicker and war with itself. Kaz of all people looks shocked. Justification it's not even cold comfort. This isn't a war. This is a bunch of people stuck in a natural disaster. We walk in silence. Maybe Kaz is judging me, maybe he's just too hurt to keep up conversation. Regardless, it gives me way too much time to think. The power is gone, but I feel something. A little bit of what made those people themselves. If I could shudder and vomit, I would. The impossible miles start to become barren. It feels like walking through an endless concrete void. We get out. It's not a hero's exit. It's the miserable slink of a pack of wounded coyote. So, folks, who hates me? I know I do. If this is all I am, if this is all how I have to exist, does anything else I do even matter? I'm scared, and I don't mean that in some esoteric, I don't know what I'm capable of way. This isn't some kind of humble brag about how strong I am. I know what I'm capable of now, and it terrifies me. To think that I'm locked in this goddamn shell, this murderous coffin, it's hell. I can't think of anything Pi nor his many relatives could put me through worse than this. I'm writing this from JP's place. I describe things here, but honestly, I need to be in a more jovial mood. I'm not going to do it justice with the combination of fear and self-hatred I have going right now. So please, everyone, give me any advice you have in the comments. I'm listening to each and every one of them. Whether it's how to make peace with what I am, how the 4, but I won't spoil anything, of us can get Leo out, or anything else you can think of. Till next time, punch. You'd think the worst part was behind us, but the slow, paranoid trudge to JP's place was its own little slice of hell, though in a much less literal way. Poor Kaz is rough. Every step seems like a battle, and it's not helped by the fact that we have to take looping, wandering paths to avoid me being seen. Didn't realize how much I'd gotten used to the new eye. But eventually we make it there, Kaz shirtless and myself doing my best to keep out of sight. I knock, and out of all the strangest things I've seen tonight, the beautiful dark-skinned woman who answers the door throws me for the biggest loop. If I haven't just trauma-killed my way through hell, I'd have probably noticed the fact she didn't seem to bat an eyelash at the two of us standing there. No way this is his place, I say, considering the paint-peeling stuff JP was saying about just about every group of humans on the planet. Oh, it is, she says with a smile before turning. Babe, your friends are here. I expected JP's place to be some kind of tinfoil hat-themed rat's nest, full of corkboard, red string, firearms, and offensive posters, but I'm looking at a nice middle-class home. Lots of computers, a few antiques, but nothing to indicate JP's career. Kaz and Punch, right? I'm Sveta. Justin told me you guys would be in rough shape, but wow. Come in. The confusingly located woman says. We do, Kaz and I exchanging stunned looks. JP comes downstairs holding a jar full of black, tarry, almost cotton candy-like substance. This time, though, he looks like he could be an accountant or a pharmacist. Dress pants and a clean button-up shirt. I have so many questions, I blurt. taking a seat on the letter ottoman. JP grins, handing the jar to Kaz. What? You were expecting something different? Kaz takes the jar and begins eating the substance within. I have no idea how to answer that politely, I say, honestly. JP laughs, Sveta joining him. The shit that goes bump in the night has all kinds of ways of finding people. They can look for things you didn't even know they could be seen. Positive actions, words, thoughts, they smell those like a hound smells sweat. Here, I'm protected from things like that, but when I go out, I take no chance. I surround myself with a fog of the worst ideas made by man, JP explains. It gives me a sense of scale of just how big all of this can be. When you're stuck in the thick of it, you don't really get that kind of perspective. Cass finishes the jar, leaning backward into an overstuffed couch. How long till you're patched up? JP asks. A few days at least. I've never been this badly hurt. Might be as long as a week. Are we too late to help Leo? Kaz replies. Son of a bitch, JP begins. Well, I have good news and bad news on the Leo front. The good news is that he's still alive. The Dutch uncle is really making a meal out of things. Tearing him apart, putting him back together. I don't think he's stopping anytime soon. Then let's put an end to that, Kaz says. He tries to sound determined, but he's tired, hurt, and it shows. No, when something like the bishop starts going full supervillain, you let them. It gives us time, JP replies. If that's the good news, what's the bad news? I ask. This bishop of yours, he's reached, exceeds his grasp, Sveta starts. He's part of an organization worldwide, ranks themselves based on local religion, heresy and parody. They have a plan for this place, this city. They've began to move their people in. That house was just the beginning. Its current owner, pretty much the middle management. Jesus Christ is all I can muster. Great fucking example of who we need, JP says fatalistically. That or a fucking army. What can we do? Kaz says with a grunt as something deep within him makes a wet popping noise. Lower our expectations. How many spooky bastards can you round up? JP inquires. None. By now, Pi will have made it known that I am persona non grata. Few around would openly attack, but I won't be getting any help, Kaz laments. You're shitting me, right? Okay, so there goes Plan B. Plan C it is. If we don't have anyone to run some severe interference, you three need to disappear. Kaz, I've got a contact in Holland, little city your kind get along pretty well in. Punch, Ecuador, nice old toy maker, he'll keep you on the straight and narrow. Leo gets the deepest pit of the most barren part of Canada. If it's just Leo and the proxy, we're looking at about 25% success rate, JP explains grimly. Kaz, isn't there anyone? I plead. Maybe Hive and Flap. They hold no love for their kind, but reaching out is going to be risky in and of itself, and knowing those two, they're going to want to be paid handsomely, Kaz offers. That's another thing. What I had to smuggle to Mr. E back in the warehouse, none of it was cheap and none of it was easy to find. I'm running low on anything of real value, and it's going to take a while to replenish my stock. I'll help you guys all I can, but I'm running on fumes here, JP laments. Appreciated. 2 questions, though. First, how can I get healed or repaired or whatever? I'm looking like a factory reject and feeling like shit. Second, if you could understand me, why did you let me keep texting back at the house? I ask. You're talking to a guy whose family business is working with supernatural objects and whose wife has forgotten more than he'll ever know on the subject. I'll get those dents banged out. And I let you keep texting because it was kind of adorable, JP replies with a grin. I can guarantee that at some point you've heard the pain be referred to as indescribable, when what the person really means is that it isn't relatable. But the pain I felt as JP began his combination of surgery, small appliance repair, and ritual was the very definition of the word indescribable. Where would I begin to explain what it feels like to have your metal head heated and bent? Or the sensation of flesh that isn't truly living go under the knife? I can't describe the pain, but I can describe the fear. Every second made me feel more like I was trapped in something. Every glimpse of my twisted flesh in a mirror shocks me. Makes me want to rip apart this walking coffin I've been placed in and bleed out on the stainless steel table. I have to do something to distract myself. What's the diagnosis? I ask JP as he uses a pair of stout pliers to straighten out a bent spar of metal. He looks around for a moment, then stands, closing the door to his workshop. You know how everyone thinks your maker was a C student? I'm not seeing that, and the more I look at how things are playing out, the less I'm willing to accept coincidence as an explanation, he answers. What are you saying? I prod, as fittingly, JP prods some mechanical bit in my left arm with a modified voltmeter. I don't know 100%, but I have some theories. No one can tell the future. If they could, you'd be able to hunt the supernatural by looking for lottery winners. But a decent amount of people in our world would have foresight. It's rare, but not unheard of. Maybe your maker saw some of this coming, set you in a place to drop a turd in the bishop's punch bowl. JP postulates as he begins to saw the handle from the knife jammed through me. What about the family? I felt that mission nagging at me every second of every day. Why don't I know anything about the bishop or Leo or you? I inquire. Can't say for sure, but my guess would be information you don't know can't be information you give. Things at this scale move subtly, little nudges to fate moving things toward one direction. You still being made inside, being you inside there isn't a bug, it's a feature. Whatever is playing out, it needs conscience. It needs some kind of morality. JP sounds somber as he reconnects in my new eye. Oh yeah, I'm a perfect role model. I told you what I did back there. I whisper. This shame and fear at what I'm capable of hits me as hard as the pain from the surgery. Punch, you can't be observed again, and you're in a quiet neighborhood in a home that's warded against just about everything. Take out about a dozen people, you'll be a force of nature for half hour. Even odds at walking out of the bishop's place. Go nuts. Now that this eye is back in, I can't stop you. JP lets the statement disguised as an offer hang. I don't reply. That's what I mean. You'd be more efficient with your wits than the morality of a virus. You'd be more deadly as a 6-foot hulk of iron and chainsaws. But instead, you're a conflicted little fella, with just enough punch to keep going. That means something. I can't tell if you're trying to reassure me or warn me, I say. Both. I have a lot of clients. The Gray Smiths keep the fight against the Void well armed. But Leo is a close friend of mine. He saved my life, and like a brother to me. But I have to tell you something about the proxy. Now that I'm digging around in here, things make more sense. Don't think of it like a free life. I know it's tempting to see what you are as some kind of superpower, but it isn't. You're controlling it with the parts of your mind, and being that are still human. If it gets destroyed while you're using it, what's left will be something I have to put down. You need to know the risks involved here, JP replies. Still trying to sync up the JP I met at the house with the guy who is acting as my therapist/repairman here, I add, trying to lighten the mood. Yeah, trust me, wading through hours of the worst opinions on Earth isn't fun. Gives me a bit of faith in humanity when I sucker punch for some of those shirts I wear, though. Cost of doing business, I guess. Glad to pay it, JP says. Your wife, what's her deal? I reply, scrambling for a topic to keep my mind off the pain and confusing flashes of past life. You and I, we're not family yet, little fella, but let me give you a history lesson. You've been out of the loop for a few decades. Things like vampires, witches, true demons, Krampus, goblins, we call them brand names, and all of them are extinct or nearly there. Years of infighting, hunting, and power struggles that could destroy the world have left them beyond decimated. The new breeds, your Slenderman-likes, cursed media, corporate-themed slashers, rules, summoned entities, They are more numerous, but less related. They're chaotic, created from a system that's breaking down, JP says with a tone of reflection. And what does this have to do with my question? I reply. JP simply shrugs and continues the final touches on bringing me back to as close to factory default as possible. The next few days go by at a snail's pace. JP has patched into the security system, and we watch as Leo is shown and introduced to otherworldly torture so brutal and esoteric, it's best to leave things a little vague. The bishop gives things the personal touch less and less as time goes on, content to see the result of the ritual-spawned creatures and cultists dressed in their Sunday best. After some false starts and nerve-wracking deals, Kaz manages to get in touch with Hive and Flap. Reluctantly, JP parts with most of his remaining stock in exchange of a promise of them covering our exit. If this place is so well warded, why aren't we home free when we get back? I asked JP as the four of us go over the newest variant of the plan. There's a difference between being scryed on and having someone follow you home. Making two monsters walking up to my door look like a tall uncle and a wobbly toddler I can do. Rewrite a cultist's brain to forget they followed a prisoner here? That's a little beyond me, JP answers sarcastically. When do we get Leo out? Kaz asks. He's been getting better, but what they put him through still clearly shows. That's on him. Once he makes a play for the stash in the bathroom, Punch can use the proxy, and we all hope for the best. The only thing I'm worried about is his mind. Hunters, they're human, but they come from a very crooked branch of the family tree. They don't get twisted and warped by contact with the unknown like most people, but that battle of will makes them a different breed. You've noticed it, the camp, the extreme confidence, that pulp character vibe. It's all part of who they are. I've seen this kind of helplessness break them. The rest of us, we're used to getting the shaft, having no options. Not them, though. The admission makes the room go silent. None of us has anything to add as we think of our friend being broken to that extent. I may be an evil doll, but if the story ended with watching one of the only people I can trust go insane and die, I wouldn't be posting it. I'm not an asshole. Leo picks his moment perfectly. The bishop is gone, and the majority of the twisted, hell-spawned creatures are focused on their infernal tasks. Around him are half dozen cultists, not quite dressed the same, but all in what I've come to think of as the uniform of this cult. Cheap suits, dress pants, and somewhere on each outfit a stark purple accent of some form. Leo is bad off, missing fingers, one foot twisted at a brutal angle, and the wounds of every imaginable type covering him. Half dead from trauma and infection, he has no problem selling his ruse. When he vomits on himself, the group laughs and mocks him, but no one wants to be stuck in a damp, windowless basement with a man that just shit what's left of his pants. If these were trained people, they would have simply let him stew. But the bishop's human followers are twisted and the weak-minded. Locals lured with dark promises and dark magic. They drag Leo from the sprawling, now dungeon-like basement, his broken foot making him scream and nearly pass out. He's roughly thrown into the bathroom, leaving a smear of blood, waste, and filth on the tile. A large, athletic-built man in a tweed suit coat and green pants spits on him. "Clean yourself up, for fuck's sake," the cultist says, slamming the door. We watch through the grainy camera as Leo limps to the toilet, almost falling as he stands on the seat to reach the wall-mounted tank. The large Ziploc bag inside has a gun and some ammunition from the home invaders, but more importantly, a gift from Kaz. The small wrapped candy looks ancient, golden wrapper long since faded to an off-brown, but what's inside is more than a piece of spun sugar, from a brand that hasn't existed since the 60s. It's a result of Kaz doing what his kind does, filled with something a hell of a lot more useful than a caramel center. Leo grimaces as he eats it, not that I can blame him. Half-century expired toilet candy, magic or not, can't taste good. The worst of the hero's wounds still. Fingers sprout painfully. His foot twists back into place with a snap. He's smart enough to muffle it with a towel, and in a few seconds, while he's not looking fresh, he's clearly got some fight in him. "It's go time," JP says. I let myself float. I feel the scraps in my mind and soul begin to get pulled somewhere far away. There is a terrifying moment of nothing, blankness, a feeling of being stuck in a place that's claustrophobic and immense all at the same time. Then I'm here, proxy whirring and clicking to life. It's 3.5 feet of bone, steel, and pulsating inhuman flesh. For a second, I favor it. To be free of that constant predator's mindset. That nagging urge to do the worst things possible. But the cold, vacant feeling that replaces it makes me wonder what consequences playing musical chairs with my soul is going to have. Information is being tossed at me through the proxy's eyes. It's all too much to parse at first. What I've come to think of as my body is fluid, almost elegant. What I find myself encased in now is a blunt tool. The readouts tell me the house has somehow gotten slightly bigger. There are about 15 humans inside, and an unknown number of malignant and other entities. I'm standing in the attic above the bathroom door, waiting for some kind of signal to get this couple 100 pounds of mechanical horror moving. Scared doesn't begin to describe things. I thought I'd feel invincible in this thing. But with what JP told me, it feels like I'm holding a massive pistol in a shaking hand. I can hear Leo mumbling something, a soft, almost song-like prayer in a language the proxy can't identify. I hear a clip being slammed home and a door explode. I figure it's time to roll the dice. I break through the cheap drywall ceiling quick enough to see the man from before screaming in pain and rage. Bits of door kicked with a force beyond what someone should be able to muster sticking from his body. He shifts his focus from Leo to myself, his horrified look as he sees the skunk-themed monstrosity that is the proxy is all the opening the hero needs. The overhand punch breaks the cultist's jaw and knocks him out instantly. I'm already moving, wicked claws ready to finish the job. Leo blocks my way with a bare, grime-covered foot. Most of these people had no choice. They're being threatened and corrupted. One of the bishop is out of the picture, they can pick up the pieces. Nothing permanent to anything human, got it? The wounded hero demands. I go to reply and I realize I don't know how. A second or so later, though, a digitized version of Leo's voice comes from my chest. Nothing permanent, got it. Something inside me changes the tone of the words to be a reply. Fucking hate that, Leo comments, grabbing a 2-foot piece of wood from the door. I wonder what good the flimsy, jagged debris is going to be, but the proxy shows me a strange energy starting to infuse it. The hallway has 2 more rooms than before, and the entire place has a damp, grimy feel to it, like some kind of sad attempt at the kind of reality warping Pi was capable of. Below us, we hear the sound of footsteps, cultists being drawn to the commotion. The front door is out of question, but you know what they say, when God closes a door, he opens a window. Leo kick, barefooted or not, sounds like a gunshot when it hits the door. But despite their cheap look and Leo's renewed vigor, it doesn't so much as rattle. Son of a bitch! This is going to take a minute, Leo says as he starts to tap and prod at the door. Got it, I reply in his voice. At least if I die, I won't have to hear that again, Leo says, starting to chant lowly. I'm wide enough to block the top of the stairs as the handful of cultists reach them. 3 pistols ring out, firing a dozen or so shots in a couple of seconds. Plates chip, the proxy's vision stutters, and one claw is blown from my hand. But the resulting back spray of hot lead in the small hallway sends the first 4 cultists falling down the stairs holding painful fragmentation wounds. No guns unless you can hit the hunter, you fucking idiots. We don't need bullets chasing us around in here, a small man with a cutting voice says. His suit is more expensive and he has a small, subtle silver circle lapel pin. A leader of some form, I'm guessing. The proxy confirms my suspicions as it shows him a 93% human, 7% unknown. A crackle of static and a yelp of pain from behind me. Whatever Leo is doing, it doesn't seem to be going well. The proxy calculates the most efficient ways to kill. No compulsion, just temptation. But if this was just a story about an evil doll who kills well, it wouldn't be that interesting, would it? You've heard that before. I have to follow through with my promise and show I'm not the fucking problem. The proxy is slow, but the torque sends cultists flying down the stairs. Ribs cracked, sensitive parts aching, teeth spread on the carpet, but each one will see the sunrise. This thing isn't designed to dole out mercy, and things take their toll. Its sluggish, robotic motions can't dodge the clubs, cleavers, and knives of the cultists. Wounded zealots rise again, throwing their damaged selves against me. The weight of the swarm and the constraints of trying to keep my humanity making me back up into the hallway. Weak points and damaged systems start to pop up in my vision. 60 seconds, maybe 90. Leo yells. A burst of green light illuminates the hallway. Whatever programming is running the proxy isn't designed for what I'm asking, but I feel it trying to accommodate, to adapt. I jab and I roar, trying to slow the mob. None of them want to get close to the proxy, but they're starting to realize I'm holding back. Then, from my calculations, goosed along with dark energy, a solution presents itself. I need more force. If you wanted to subdue someone, you don't send someone well armed, you send someone in big. One of the 3 tubes from the backpack releases a quarter of its thick red liquid into the proxy. I thrash and jerk, hitting the ground in an almost seizure-like state. The spectacle itself gives the cultists pause. They stand unsure and wary as I grow taller and wider in painful bursts and fits. By the end, I'm an asymmetrical, misshapen construct nearly 5 feet tall. I taunt the group with their own screams played back. These people may be lost in being influenced by powers beyond their understanding, but fear and self-preservation take the edge off of their lunatic zeal. Ribs break and cultists find themselves stuck through walls as my vision shows me a dozen points of concern on the proxy. Joints are beginning to wear, damage is taking its toll. But in a few dozen seconds, I'm standing at the top of the stairs, all of the cultists either unable or unwilling to keep trying. The man with the silver pen looks exasperated, shaking his head as he pulls out a cell phone. Yeah, he's got something with him, kind of half-assed construct, sending up the negotiator, he says, grinning a wicked smile at us as if he didn't just watch me disable a dozen people. I hear a small arching noise and a click. We're good, Leo begins. 5 massive clawed fingers large enough to fill the doorway from the kitchen put deep furrows into the damp drywall. The sounds of something being dragged, an entity large enough the proxy's readouts can't seem to decide if it's sentient or an architectural accident, slowly makes its way up the stairs. Leonard, if you get out of that window as fast as you can, there's a good chance you'll escape, a voice choked and gleeful says from the basement doorway. But behind that door are 5 lucky people we've been saving for a rainy day. We both know you won't leave them. You'll waste your window of freedom and you'll be back with me. More dragging noises. The house itself seems to creak under the weight of the entity speaking. Another hand grasps the opposite side of the doorway. The voice sounds closer now. You've offended me, Leonard. You've made me and mine look foolish to the bishop. I want you to imagine what I'm capable of now that you've made this personal. Truly understand what I've done to you, what I've shown you, until now, has just been business. If you make me leave the comfort of this basement, the rules change, Leonard. I expect a quip and some crazy power, but when I look to Leo, I see terror, hesitation. Whatever went on here, beyond what we saw, it's left its mark on him. Behind those massive, wicked claws are wrists the size of a young oak. Whatever is dragging itself up, I want no part of. I turn and run toward Leo. I tackle him into the room, and as promised, a group of 3 men and 2 women are crudely chained to the floor. The impact seems to have snapped him back to a reality a bit, but I see a very unheroic look of panic on his face. He sprints to the door, and with a mumbled syllable he had to repeat a half-dozen times, the wards he bypassed engage again. They won't hold him for long, Leo says, desperately trying to control his breathing. The group scream and plead for help. I walk to the window and look for a sign of flap. Nothing but 3 well-armed cultists waiting for our escape. Our backup isn't here, the suit says, having to heavily garble some words. Leo shudders, his face terror and frustration. Fuck me, Leo says softly. Are you going to be okay? I ask, wishing I had more control over the tone when I speak. I'm gonna have to be, but that thing down there, we can't win a straight-up fight, and we need to get these people out. You've got the ear of tens of thousands of people. Maybe one of them has been paying enough attention to help us figure things out, Leo says, as the dragging noise begins to get closer. And that's where I am, desperately trying to give you guys an update before the door comes crashing down, and I get to see what is scary enough it has Leo wanting to run in the other direction. You've helped me out before. JP boosted a couple of books when he was here the first time, and Hive seems to think he can work something with the insects in the home. I know it's a lot to ask, but I want these people to get out. I want to prove I'm not the problem. Alright everyone, so that was part 7 through 9 of I Am an Evil Doll, but I Am Not the Problem. And our next episode will be the last 3 parts of the story. So look forward to that. You got anything you want to say?
Love you guys.
Yeah, well, Mo's been like sitting in the other room the whole time I'm reading, so. But again, my voice and my throat is so sore from reading. I think it's time for me to go to bed. And remember, if you find us on YouTube, please subscribe, leave us a like, leave us a comment. If you find us on Spotify or wherever else, then please follow. And we will see you next time.
And one more thing you have to remember, we're always watching you. Follow.
Please follow.
Follow.
Please follow.
We're always watching.
Alright, see you guys next time. Enjoy the story.